everybody, and welcome to the Pixel Professor podcast, where we take an academic deep dive into the cultural and artistic phenomenon that is video games. It is August 15th, 2024, and I'm Iraq Tenor, and the person clicking away on his mouse and keyboard is also known as...
Me?
Yeah.
I thought you were doing it yourself.
No.
You were the one clicking.
No, I haven't touched a thing.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I'm Swift. I'm Jeff Swift. Nice to meet you. I have to introduce myself like James Bond. Every time.
Oh, Swift. Jeff Swift.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Well, it works. It's been working for him for a long time.
I mean,
well, it
until the most recent.
Yeah, seriously. So on spoilers, but we won't ruin it. But whoa, I will say I was not expecting that when I finally watched the movie. My parents were huge James Bond fans, so I grew up watching it, and I always watched them late. But watching that one, I did not expect the end of that one. So if you're interested in James Bond and you haven't seen that last one, I do like what's his face as James Bond.
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig was a controversial choice when he was first selected. Do you know he made a cameo in The Force Awakens? Did you know that?
I did know that. He was a stormtrooper.
He was. Everybody knows that now, huh?
Everybody
That's become the equivalent of when people are watching The Lord of the Rings and Aragorn kicks the helmet. That's that kind of effect. Like,
yep.
Did you know? And then it's like, yes, everybody knows that now.
For those of you who don't know, in Lord of the Rings, when Aragorn kicks the helmet, he actually broke his toe.
What?
And when that noise he makes, he's like, yeah. That's because his toe just broke and he was in pain.
Yeah. Wow. You learned to hear. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. There's your fun fact. You're welcome. Tell your friends.
You're welcome, everybody. Now you too can be the cool kid at the Lord of the Rings party.
Yeah. If you're at a Lord of the Rings party, I'm pretty sure if you even start to say that, there'll be a bunch of people synchronized with you. Like you'll know the exact words. The script is already written.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what are you playing there, Swift? What games are you playing?
No, I've been playing Fortnite with my kids.
Yeah. That's a good one to play with your kids.
Yeah.
Are they beating you? Are they better than you?
So much better. So much better. My 7-year-old will yell at it, and I'll die, and he'll like run down the hall, and he'll be like, "Dad, you have to stay with me. You can't leave my side. Go where I go. Follow me. If I get in a car, you get in a car." Like, okay,
I will say that does sound familiar. When like how many times does Mavin say? How many times when we game and we're like, "Wait, where's Swift?" And you're like 20 miles away picking flowers and hugging trees, which is a beautiful thing, really.
It's less beautiful in Fortnite.
That's true, especially when the world is collapsing around you and being a distant away from your party is a liability.
It's true.
So, are your kids? Do they rub it in your face that they're better, or worse? Do they say things like, "Oh, good try, Dad"? Like, man, like you were better that time. Like, which are your kids? Are they a mixture? Or neither?
My 7-year-old is one I've been playing with most this week, and he is definitely more of the can you stop dragging us down, Dad? Which I appreciate, because I know that I do.
Yeah. At least so he's honest. He's just honest. Yeah, you know where he stands. Yeah, that's good. Are the others more encouraging, or are they more? They just they suffer in silence.
Yeah, we haven't. This week I haven't played much with them. We have done a couple fours. Oh yeah, quad team or whatever it's called.
Yeah. And
those are fun.
Yeah, man, that's really fun.
Yeah, my 7-year-old and I won. We've got a couple crowns, couple victory crowns.
Hey, well done. Yeah, see, that's so cool.
That's pretty fun.
You know, I liked playing catch with my dad, and this is like the video equivalent of playing catch. You're grabbing some semi-automatic weapons and blowing other people away.
And I'm Chewbacca, and he's just a random, a mechanic or like.
See, that's so cool.
Ahsoka Tano from Star Wars or whatever.
That's so cool.
How about you? What are you playing these days?
I haven't. I'm very much steeped in editing Mavin's and my Project Zomboid 100 Days video, and that's kind of taken my whole life. But which I'm so excited about. And talking
I'm
about
excited to
someone,
see it.
speaking of someone playing with another who is clearly less skilled, the number of times Mavin has to be like, okay,
Mavin
I'll
isn't that much less skilled than you.
if he heard anyone say that out loud, his whole brand would be ruined. But the number of times he has to be like, okay, I'll come and get you. We have this moment in the game where like I was particularly tired and I've got my axe and I'm trying to kill this zombie. And I mean, in my defense, my guy was hungry, and when you're hungry and other moodlets are bad, like you're not. So I'm trying to kill this guy and I've hit him like 15 times. And I'm pretty sure you can see Mavin's character roll his eyes. And he walks over with his spear and pokes the guy, kills him, and then just walks away. And it's just this beautifully timed while I'm just hitting this guy in the face over and over again. Mavin works his way over, pokes him, doesn't say a word, turns around and walks. There's also the moment that
That's
I'm just
amazing.
sitting there in the kitchen and I've said something somewhat condescending to him. And I'm just doing my thing in the kitchen. And he walks up to me and without saying a word, hits me in the face with a pipe wrench. See, those are the things you can do in a video game and not in real life. So, and I'm sure in real life he's felt like he's wanted to do that in the past, and he got to do it in the game. So it was a beautiful moment in our relationship. Really, we laughed, haha.
We'll always have the pipe wrench.
It will always have the pipe wrench. So anyway, but I am playing. I have a couple of games I play with my kids, or they grew up enjoying to both play games with me and watch me play. We talked about that before. Like as a kid, I hated that. My kids still love it, and so my oldest daughter, even who just had my first grandchild, and they're with us here right now. And she one day, semi recently, was like, "Will you play? Can I watch you play Tears of the Kingdom?" She is so much better than me at Tears of the Kingdom. Like I feel like she feels bad when I walk in and she's playing it and I see how far ahead she is from me, and she's just kind of like, "Oh, it's okay, Dad. You'll get there." As I play with her, she's just so like she's like my own little back in the original days of Link and Zelda. Actually, it's a kind of a good segue because spoilers for this episode. Stick around, and you might learn a thing or two about the OG Zelda. But she like used to like there was this phone line you could call, and of course, that fan is very loud. By the way,
It's back.
It's back. The fan is back. But I mean, you got to stay cool, man. So anyway, you had to call like this Nintendo hotline with these Nintendo counselors, and they would like walk you through how to beat games and stuff like that. Or you could get
that's not real.
It was, yeah, oh yeah. There was this company in Seattle where you could get they had hundreds of these counselors who would get new games, memorize how they went, and if you got stuck, you would call this hotline and they would walk you through like how to play the game, and they had maps pulled out and notes in these notebooks. And
no way, that's awesome.
It's it's if you watch, I'll recommend this again for this first game we're going to play, the series High Score on Netflix, the little docu-series. They talk about the counselors, but that was a thing. And the magazine, what was it called? Nintendo Power. Like if you had a that's the right title, is it? Anyway, if you still had a subscription to that magazine, you could also. And of course, I had none of those things, so I just had to suffer and figure stuff out on my own and like solve puzzles with that, just with my own noggin. And now I have my kids. Like my 11-year-old also is so far ahead of me in Tears of the Kingdom, and that she coaches me while I'm playing. So I've been playing that, and I've also been playing some Stardew Valley with them both because they also know a lot about that one. And I had done a little bit of research, and Harvest Moon's anniversary of coming out on TikTok. I do those little like today in games kind of things. And this last week, Harvest Moon was one of the games we talked about. And then I was like, I haven't played Harvest Moon in years and years. And then realized when I was playing Harvest Moon, like I just want to play Stardew Valley now because it's a better version of Harvest Moon. So great game still. Harvest Moon is a great game. And if you've never played it, if you want to get like the OG cozy game, farm simulator game, Harvest Moon is that game. But I mean, Eric Baroni, when he made Stardew Valley, set out to make a better version of Harvest Moon. Like whatever, all the stuff he wished he could do in Harvest Moon, and he did. I mean, Stardew Valley is just such a great game. It's just if you haven't played it much, you should definitely. It's relaxing, and yet it's just really there's just so much to do. It's a great game, and the pixel art is gorgeous. So Anywho. So, okay. So we got lots to do today, and I want to make sure we don't take too long. We're trying this thing. We've been trying these different things where we like review games. Where like my every other week podcast episodes right now are centered around taking us through the sort of flag posts of game development, like which games stick out in these different eras of gaming. So we aren't necessarily doing gaming reviews. We're not going to spend a ton of time playing the games. But one of my favorite things is that Swift didn't have really a childhood. And so because he didn't have a childhood,
I spawned at 15, I think. Kind of accounts vary.
Yeah.
Experts disagree, but it was somewhere between 14 and 17.
Yeah, I mean that's the only explanation, really. Like,
my parents they bought a computer one day, and then just like in the mid 90s, whenever it was, I don't know when it was. They just like turned around one day and they're like, "What's that sound?" They're like, "The audio is a little bit messed up. The audio in our house is kind of messed up."
What's that sound? Yeah, ew.
Because that's what I do.
Yeah,
I mess up that.
That was an attempt at a pretty sophisticated like wrap around all the way to other issues. Well done. I mean, not really, but like that, I like the attempt. So
all I want is credit. So
you got it. You got all the credit for that one. But what's fun about this is even though like I craved better computers and consoles than I had access to growing up. And part of that was growing up in Germany. And I learned about what gaming was doing in the United States while I was growing up in Germany. And I'm a little jealous sometimes. And yet we still ended up having access to all this stuff. I got to some of these games were games that were formative in my growing love for video games, and you didn't play a lot of these. So what's fun for us here is I get to actually introduce you to these things and get an initial reaction to games that a lot of people have played lots of times. So I am grateful that you spawned, just first of all because I like you, and also I'm grateful that you spawned after all of this happened. So whatever that was, I appreciate whatever egg you hatched out of or whatever. I'm glad.
Do your parents? Do your kids ever call you Spawn Point?
Yes. Oh yes. I am. No, I think is Abby's Spawn Point. My wife. I shouldn't say her name. I should probably I don't know, beep that out. That my wife is Spawn Point, and my kid has my wife as Spawn Point, and I'm the lobby, and I don't really get it. And it was funny because I was like, wait, I don't really get that. And she was like, honestly, I don't remember either, but it seemed really funny when I did it. And I was like, oh, okay. I don't, anyway. And she means like the Fortnite lobby is what she means. Yeah. So I don't.
It's before you spawn in. It's where you are before you spawn in.
Yeah, that's right. I think that's what that means, which is, there you go.
There you go. Very anatomically correct.
Our kids, ladies and gentlemen. There you go. That's what it means to be Gen Z/Alpha. So today, 2 weeks ago, we did the 70s and Atari and stuff like that. And we hinted at the end of Atari, at least in this first sort of iteration of it. And the end of Atari is kind of complicated because it manages to stick around in different ways. First, as an introduction to what we're doing today, I sent you over a link to a game. And I want you to share your screen. And we're going to play a little bit of this game. Now, I actually didn't play this game originally on the Atari. Thankfully, I did have to find an emulator and play it many years later, and the horribleness of it does hold up.
Like that's impressive.
It's some games like people like they get poorly reviewed, and you find these diamonds in the rough for games that are like, no, actually, this is kind of good. This one is not. Like it really is not. So, was the title on there? Just I want to make sure that we. Okay, yeah, you have to push that SCL button, and we have to make sure it's not too loud, I guess, hopefully. Or push, I guess you have to push the power button first. These emulators are all a little bit different. They're kind of annoying.
Get ready. It's going to be loud.
Because when the sound comes on, sometimes it can be pretty obnoxious.
Oh, is there a sound thing? No,
there's the cartridge title. There it is. Can you push the on thing over it? Oh, see, it's set to off. Push on. Here we go.
Oh,
I don't even hear any sound.
I was afraid. You don't hear any sound?
No. Are you sharing your audio there?
Go away. Oh, there we go.
There it is. E.T., the extraterrestrial. Okay, fire. Woo! That is very loud.
Yeah. You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that doesn't. Oh boy! Oh
Okay,
boy!
there he is. There's ET himself. Okay, now here's the thing. There's no. That's it. Like there's no. You just play now.
Okay.
There you go. Got a little
so
cute little sound effects. You've got some of that John Williams score when you came zooming in there. See, that's pretty inspiring.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Look, you collected something, right?
Oh, it's Dick Tracy.
Oh, is it? Have you seen the movie E.T.? Not that it really matters in this game.
Wait, I fell in a hole.
You sure did.
But that was a tree.
Was it a tree?
Check it out. Look how much taller I can be.
Yeah, you sure can. There used to be a toy. My dad got it for me. I remember when he was like TDY. He bought this. He came back with this toy where you could like, there was a lever in the back of ET's neck, and you could make his neck go up and down and up and down. And
I don't remember ET, but I don't think his neck.
It does.
Oh, you can just go up.
Of course you can. That's obvious. Oh, unless you fall back in the hole.
Wait. Oh, you can fly when your neck is long. Okay.
Yep. See, obviously, you've got it.
Okay.
You've got it.
Oh. Is that Carmen San Diego? Okay, so I go
just wandering around. Uh-oh, he's gonna get. I guess he didn't.
I don't think he got me.
He didn't get you, and he just decided you weren't worth it there for a second. I think it's supposed to be a doctor, right? That's one of those. Oh, another pit.
So the logic of this game escapes me.
So I was just about to ask you, what do you think your objective is? Like, what do you know about this game so far? Like, what are you supposed to do?
I'm following the arrows. Every time that there's an arrow, I follow the arrow. Okay.
But now it's question mark.
Oh, question mark.
Now what do you do?
All right, I'm going to talk to this guy.
Talk to him.
Come back.
Oh,
hey, doctor.
He left. He got you. Now the doctor got you.
It seems like maybe that's not a doctor.
Maybe he's a scientist. Oh, he put you in jail or something.
It's the man in the big yellow hat.
It's now some kind of weird mixture between.
Oh my gosh.
Those pits, man. Just like in the movie. Remember all those pits that E.T. fell in? Yeah, there were.
I think I must have.
He didn't fall into any pits in the movie.
Wait, okay, I'm getting carried.
Yeah,
good.
You're getting taken somewhere. You don't know where you're being taken.
My kid, when I play Fortnite, says, "I'm carrying you," so that must be a good thing.
That's true. That's what that means.
Okay, man in the big yellow hat, come over here. Man in the big yellow hat.
Oh, maybe he's leading you somewhere. Is he leading you somewhere?
He disappears.
He does every time. So let me, as you keep playing and learning and enjoying this wonderful romp through ET. So the designer of this game, famously, actually had designed a game for Atari called Yar's Revenge that was quite successful. And so to the point that when it was getting close to Christmas of 1982, game like licensing, Steven Spielberg and Atari saw an opportunity to, because this is still kind of new, and other people had tried to kind of capitalize on movies in video games, like making video games based on movies. Like even though, for example, Jaws, which was a few years before, no one made a Jaws video game per se. When the movie was so ridiculously popular, people made shark games, and obviously they were inspired by Jaws. So there's this like, okay, financially, if we do this right, we can like capitalize on the popularity of these big budget, massive movies. Of course, E.T., smash hit. So Steven Spielberg actually met with Howard Scott Warshaw, the guy who did Yar's Revenge, and they sat down to design this video game together. And Steven Spielberg actually said something like, hey, can you make it like Pac-Man? Because Pac-Man was so ridiculously popular. And Howard Scott Warshaw, who felt like he was a really good game designer, was like, no, I can make a game better than that. And then it wasn't until after he agreed that he was told he had like, I think it was something like 6 weeks to make a game. And he was like, okay, I'm a really good game designer. I'm not going to make it like Pac-Man. I'm going to make an original game. And he like slogged at it. That was perfect timing, by the way, at that point in the story. So made this game, and what are your impressions of this game so far, Swift?
It is really bad.
It's really bad. Like, someone remarking on this game said something that I think was really true. Like, people can handle a game being hard. They can't handle being lost and not knowing what to do. This game has no clear objective. Like, you have no idea what you're doing ever, and then you randomly fall into pits, seemingly, and then what? Right? It's trying to be some kind of an adventure game or something. With every step you take, that counter goes down. So I think he's trying to imply certain things about time running out, but you don't know what is running out to.
I have figured out that the man in the big yellow hat hides in the Coliseum.
Oh.
And then sometimes the doctor takes me to the other Coliseum and I just leave. And then there's also this house. So I think I'm about halfway there.
Yeah, you've got
figuring it out.
You may have already beat the game, as a matter of fact. We don't know.
I'm waiting for Curious George to pop out. And then also, the other thing I discovered is that this thing.
Yeah, it does a little thing in the bottom there. It's
there's
like
a key, and then it helps you get into the pit.
Into the no, you fall. Those are all those holes around there. Those 4 big holes are the pit.
Oh, I thought those were bushes.
No, I believe they could be. They could be both.
No, that makes more sense. And I think this might be a hand grenade that I want to give to that guy. See, I gave him the hand grenade.
Oh, is it a grenade or is it? I don't know. So you give those things to him. Masterpiece.
I think so.
Okay. Well, you figured out. But
I got spaghetti.
I put a C on top. You fell down a pit, and there was a thing that added a C to the top.
Well, clearly I gave the right guy the hand grenade.
Yeah.
I also discovered that spacebar makes you kind of do a burst of speed. It's turbo.
Oh. Well, the C went away.
Crap.
Let's
go down this hole. It's not there anymore.
No, there's another pit. And
what happens if I get to 0?
That's a good question. I actually have no idea. And falling in those pits is the pits, if you will.
Oh, I will.
Oh, yep. There you go again. You just keep falling in the pit there, Swift.
I'm trying to get away from it. Okay.
Move
to the left.
Are you in a state of flow as you play this game? I guess. Do you feel awe or full or awful? Awful or flow off flowy? No, none of those things. Hey, you gave him another key. So anyway, this game, maybe unfairly so, is sort of credited with being the downfall of this era of gaming. Like, it led to a massive crash in 1983. It didn't by itself lead to the crash of video games in 1983. There were a lot of reasons for it, but from
personal experience, I'm saying maybe it might have.
Maybe it did. It was bad enough that, and there's been a joke around for ages that games based on movies are always bad, and movies based on games are always bad. And it actually wasn't until recently that trend started to change with things like the Super Mario Brothers movie, the recent one, not the 90s one. The 90s one is terrible. And like Fallout, the series, like, that's genuinely excellent series.
It's true.
Historically, movies and video games have not been particularly successful partners. I'm really curious about what happens when you go to 0.
I know. I'm kind of excited.
I like the countdown here. Are you going to get put in prison? Is it like the countdown to the end of your life?
I realized that I think it points toward the man whenever I just gave him a high five or something.
Okay, good.
Okay,
you're running out of time here.
Look, we don't 60, have. Oh, there's another hand grenade.
50, are they hand grenades? Oh, 0. You're dead. Oh no!
Hey, it's Ernie. This was the original.
Yeah, Sesame Street and this. So I think we can give up on this one. To be honest, I think it's okay. You've had the experience. And we need a good. You can stop sharing. Ooh. Okay, we can stop
Power.
sharing your screen now. We can
turn off.
Yeah. Woo. Woo! I mean, yes, there it is.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to play that game on my own for a while.
For hours and hours. At it. Yeah, it's worth the work. And watch High Score on Netflix. The series they actually interview Howard Scott Warshaw about it. There's also a documentary on Amazon Prime called what's it called? Game Over. Atari Game Over. Atari : Game Over. And it goes through the initial. There was a legend that they had taken all these cartridges and dumped them in the desert in this Sierra Nevada desert. In New Mexico. And so these gamers went on this pilgrimage to dig up. They raised money to bring backhoes and stuff to dig up these holes and get these games out. And there they were. They found them and confirmed it was still a bad game when they found it. Anyway, so
you're telling me they threw the game into a pit?
They did. I didn't.
That's meta.
That is meta. Wow.
Maybe they figured out how to play the game. I hope there was a hand grenade in there
that they could hand to a guy in a trench coat.
Yeah.
So anyway, as you can see, games crashed. The gaming industry crashed, and it had some to do with misplaced investments in games like ET. The market was also saturated with just I think it's what happens. You find a thing that's working, and then you try to turn that into a formula, and you saturate with the market with the same formula, and people get tired of it. It's like Marvel or something. It's like what happens when you've hit the end of this arc of this beautiful story, and it's all wonderful, and it's well, now what do we do? Well, we want to keep making money off this thing. Pac-Man work, let's keep making Pac-Man games. Space Invaders work, let's keep making Space Invaders games. And then, so I think Howard Scott Warshaw was actually trying to break the cycle. He told Steven Spielberg, I don't want it to be just a Pac-Man game. So I feel for him, actually. He said, I want to make something original, and he had no time to do it. Because now
it's a bad combination.
Yeah, the carrot leading the horse kind of a thing. It was no, we've got to keep this thing rolling. You needing it's got to happen at Christmas time. We can't sell games unless they come out at Christmas. Of course, now we've learned more than ever, and that the cycle of games does not follow any particular trajectory. Yes, people sell consoles and certain things around Christmas time, but quite often you'll release a game. Speaking of Stardew Valley or other games, you release a game, and then a year later, after making certain updates and such, that's when it really takes off. No Man's Sky is a great example, right? No Man's Sky comes out and it flops because it wasn't what it was advertised to be, and now it's a great game, a truly great game. So anyway, but of course that wasn't the case, especially when you're dealing with cartridges and everything else. So games crash, consoles aren't selling well anymore, layoffs and all that kind of stuff that happens in this cycle. At the same time, and it is important to note that this isn't a formula that can be followed either. What works in Japan usually, as a matter of fact, doesn't work in the United States. That being said, there was this system in Japan called the Famicom. It was made up differently, redesigned because the Nintendo America didn't think it was going to be as successful over here, and they released the Nintendo, or the Nintendo Entertainment System. And go check out some of our previous episodes if you want to see the awesome commercials that were coming out and all of that. Yeah. But there's so many, people have tried to break down, as we are wont to do, the formula of what was it about Nintendo that made it so successful? And I think it's a variety of things, but great games, for as easy as that sounds, are the key. A truly great game, that's the key. That's the key. It just has to be a good game. Now, and usually, as soon as it steps into a formula, it loses some of that. And that's where I think Mario Brothers deserves a lot of credit because of guys like Miyamoto and amazing designers and creators around that game. They didn't just say, oh, we're just going to make another Mario Brothers game. We're going to develop this thing. Because even the game we're going to play next, I'll send you the link, is Super Mario Brothers. This is the system and the game largely credited with resurrecting the console market. And Mario Brothers was a great game. And it shipped with the console, Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. So it had cool peripherals. And they weren't the first people to explore different peripherals. The controls were intuitive. and were more sophisticated than the Atari, which just had the joystick and the button. Is it working, the emulator link, by the way? I hope it is.
Yeah, I'm double checking it.
And if not, I can find it. But either way, Nintendo and the ingenuity really of the creators and designers at Nintendo, and it's a really small team in the beginning of people like Miyamoto and Koji Kondo and Takashi Tezuka, and now these legends of game design. And we're going to talk about them really exclusively about these, because these next 3 games are Nintendo's big games, and the rest is history. Like all games are responding and reacting, in my opinion, to these games and the stuff. And Konami makes some wonderful games for Nintendo as well, and they bridge the sci-fi gap, whereas Nintendo on its own is doing stuff like, we've all dreamed of being an Italian plumber, fending off
who hasn't
turtles who shoot fire.
True.
And using magic mushrooms to gain secret powers. We've all been there. We've all had that experience. It's a human experience.
Yeah.
So I
okay. Here we go.
Okay, can't wait. How much Mario Brothers did you play as a kid? Did you say you didn't play this at all?
Now looking at it, I think I might have played it a little bit at my cousin's house, but not very much.
Man, this game. I have memories.
Oh, wait.
When I was a kid, that was the Atari. That was a good fake out there, Swift.
Oh, you're right. That was the Atari.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
You just want to play more E.T. You loved
it. That was such a well-made game.
Yes, you were just in such awe.
Okay. Here we go.
Hey, there he is. Iconic.
Oh, that sound.
Got it. There you go. On these emulators, this is all high res and stuff. Oh, you can't go back. You can't go back in this one. Oh, but you're supposed to go down in some of those pipes and stuff, huh? Oh, you're running out of time already.
The music got a little too fast, and now I'm stressed out.
That is the idea. You're gonna die if you don't make it. You gotta use the other button. Oh, you had firepower and you didn't use it.
I'm a pacifist.
Oh,
I had 40. Okay, you know what?
Okay. I wish we could turn your. I'll turn your volume down later, when I edit. Okay, so fun facts about this game. We've talked about Koji Kondo and the score, phenomenal, and the whole open scoring that he used and how he used the sampling and everything else. So, but the designer is a legend in gaming, Shigeru Miyamoto, and his partner, who is also a legend, Takashi Tezuka, who did a lot of the writing and stuff like that. They worked on this game together. There's so many things we take for granted in this game, like the sky being blue and those vibrant green colors. Games had black backgrounds. And so when people first opened this game and it was bright blue, that was already a different thing. Like the way your TV glows is different when you played this game versus other games. It was just a bright, cheery, happy atmosphere when you play this game. Again, as compared to others. Things like the magic mushrooms, even, those come from Japanese folklore. Like Japanese folk stories of going into the woods and meeting wizards and other fantasy elements and finding magic mushrooms that would give you secret powers and stuff like that. This was released in, 1985. What else can I tell you about this game? There's so much to say. Again, more sophisticated controls. So much work went into the graphics engine that allowed for this smooth side scrolling you're doing from left to right. Like most games were platformers that you went up and down, or were Space Invaders, or oh, you missed your firepower there, friend. Or it was like Pac-Man, where it's just one screen that you're moving around. So this whole side-scrolling idea. Another Nintendo game was sort of the big pioneer in side-scrolling. That's Excite Bike, where they really figured out, because it's a racing game, so it had to be smooth. This game relied on that technology to make this side-scrolling as smooth as this is, which we take for granted now, but was not normal. when this game first came out. So
what year did this come out again?
1985.
And what year? And 82 was the ET
Christmas
game.
of 82. So like it was set for 83. This is really just 2 years before. Yeah.
The difference in these two games is astounding.
So like first quote unquote impressions.
Yeah, like I know it makes sense. It makes sense what I'm doing.
Yes.
The sound feeds into the game. There's like things hurry up when I'm going too slowly.
Yep.
It's like it's a full game.
Yes. Well, including like even
falling into pits.
Even you fell in a pit again. That's your specialty. That sound, that dun 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 dun. Like Koji Kondo talks about how much they obsessed over that little bit. They needed some sound, some music that would encourage you to pick up the game again or not quit when you died.
Yeah.
So that's designed to be like, yeah, it's sad, but try again, kind of a thing, you know? Like it's got an optimistic feel to the music.
Yeah.
And all these little design elements from crazy red turtles and how you interact and throw them and all of that.
Yeah.
None of this should be intuitive. And yet, as soon as you pick it up, you know exactly what to do. Right? Like even that initial Goomba you have to jump over to get like the magic mushroom. That's designed to lead you to that first mushroom. And it's designed to teach you, here's what mushrooms do. Like you learn that from the very beginning without having to read a manual or do anything. That's so hard. Like lots of pits now, by the way.
I found the turbo button.
Yes, you hold down B. Like even Game Over is like, shucks. So there's your Mario Brothers. Okay, so the 2-player thing, for example, is a little quirky because in 2 players, like basically the first player plays for as long as they want. Or until they die, not as long as they want, but you can just kind of go forever until that person dies. So sometimes when you were the second player, you would have to sit there for a very long time. So it had some issues. But I mean, more than 58 million copies of this were sold. So a part of it was because it came with the machine. But this sold machines and not vice versa, right? Like this game was a revolution in gaming, and you could play it. You could play something this good in your home. That was a new thing. So, the brightness of it, the smoothness of it, all of the senses being engaged to the sound and everything else is just it still plays so well. I love playing this game still. I picked it up again recently. And I've never beat the game all the way without using the warp levels, like without cheating, quote unquote.
Oh yeah.
So I'm obsessed now with beating it, like actually like without using any cheats.
That's awesome.
But just some fun facts about this one. If you ever fight Bowser was actually initially designed to be an ox, not a big turtle, and that was changed.
Oh, bummer.
This is one of the first games where you can turn the volume down. Look at that. This is one of the first games where they use specialists for different aspects of the game. So like Koji Kondo working on sound, like having a writer, a designer, a sound effects person. The team was small, but they were each assigned different things, whether it was drawing the characters or animation or whatever else. Of course, now that's standard, and you wouldn't dream to not do it. But so that's that. And then limited space meant for really fun challenges. Like if you notice those white clouds on the top.
Yeah.
Now, if you keep going, look at the green bushes. Notice anything similar?
Same design.
It's the same sprite, just colored differently. And you can program it to show up as a different color, but use the same sprite, use the same graphic.
Yeah.
So that saved space because they had no space. So they did stuff like that to save space. So it's funny, after Koji Kondo added the sound, they had like 20 bytes left. And they were like, what do we do with these 20 bytes? So they took those last 20 bytes, and when you get 10 lives, like if you've built a little crown pops up. Like a little crown comes next to the lives. It's just this little, that was the last 20 bytes.
Oh, that's
into
funny.
this little glowing crown that goes next to the lives. Anyway, So, legendary game. Can't recommend it enough. We probably need to move on, but
No.
Or we just lost Swift to one of the greatest games of all time, which would be understandable. You did it.
I made it as an adult, like as a tall Mario.
You did. That's key. And having firepower and stuff is even more key. All right. Yep. So we're going to move forward in this Nintendo journey. So we're sticking to the NES for right now. We're going to play 3 NES games. We'll probably have to take a little less time on these next 2. We'll put links to these emulators. Emulators are tricky gray areas in terms of legality. The emulators are technically fine. Even the ROMs are great. Anyway, these emulators are available. Highly recommend. And nowadays, it's becoming more of a trend, again, which I'm so grateful for. People are buying old consoles and old cartridges. If you want to, and they deserve to get it, really make sure the people who made these games are compensated. The way to do that is on the Switch. Now they have the actual emulators themselves where you can buy them and play old games on the Switch. And Mario Brothers is one of those games. So, and the emulator is not expensive either, in my opinion. So it's a great way to play old games. And the Switch has made those available, which is awesome. All right. So there are several games that are huge in terms of sales. But in terms of, I've used my own feelings about this, just in terms of differentiating games. This next game, so it's hard to compare them. That original Mario Brothers, the OG, sold 58 million copies. This next one sold 6.5 million copies. But it is still the number 6 game all time for Nintendo. And it was released in Japan in 1986. I want to stress that. So all of the innovations that were made in Mario Brothers, which are so significant, in 1985, only a year later. And here's the thing that I just love about Nintendo. They don't just stick to a formula. They could have just kept making the same Mario Brothers game. I'm listening to about the creator of Unreal Tournament. Unreal was such a cool game for LAN parties and all that kind of stuff and playing in college. Once they figured out Unreal worked, they just kept making new versions of Unreal and modifying it because it was a formula that worked. Nintendo didn't do that. Yes, they go back to Mario Brothers, but even when they go back to Mario Brothers, it is full of innovations. The next big game chronologically is this one. It's The Legend of Zelda, this number 6 game of all time. So Nintendo has learned how to make side-scrollers work, right? In this new, cool, amazing way. Zelda's not a side-scroller. You view Zelda in a new way. In gaming, this was not really fully explored. In some ways, it's kind of like E.T., but just the way in terms of showing a character from above. But in terms of the way, and there is this explanation for what you do with these different things, but you get to hover over this character as he interacts with the world in a totally new way. So you start out by making your character name. Now, this is important too. So in the cartridge itself, obviously the NES, you bought your NES and it had limited capabilities in terms of you couldn't really save your game. Right? Because there wasn't enough memory and storage in the machine itself. So if you want, what was cool about every cartridge is packed within the cartridge as technology for cartridges increased. There's the ability to save the game is on the cartridge itself. So now on this system, on this and in Zelda, in the cartridge itself, that's where the ability to save your game is. Oh, you just had your name and now you messed it up. What are you doing? And guess who wrote that music? Also Koji Kondo. Oh, what's fun about that, fun fact, is that he was originally going to use Bolero, found out it was copyrighted, and then decided in one day, he was like, well, we need a theme. And he wrote it. And now look, it was saved. And now it's one of the most iconic themes of all time. And here it is. So there you are. You're now over Link, who incidentally is named Link, because the idea is he's just a normal boy. So if you were just a young boy playing this game, he was your link to a new world. Right? He's your link to this exciting make believe place, and you as a and they purposely didn't give him very many like powers, because the idea is he's just you, but you're capable of doing wonderful things and cool adventuresome things. So he's really supposed to be you, the boy playing the game.
Cool.
And then you go around, and there was a door up in the front when you first got there. You see that little cave when you in the place you first were.
Should have gone through that door.
But you can there's no should. You can do whatever you want. That being said, like just so this has like a lot of RPG elements. Obviously, like RPG games become more and more sophisticated, but this is how they start. Like
at that.
Like it can't. We don't have the capabilities of going full like D&D yet. But here's the game. Like I just remember pulling this game out and being like, this is the dream. Like I'd never played a game like this before, where I could just adventure in this quasi-open world.
That's amazing.
And you died. You lost your hearts there. Oh, poor guy. Yeah. He spun around and he died. So, but Miyamoto talked about like his inspiration for the game was playing in the countryside. Oh, you can retry.
That's the Windows key.
I forgot about that. You're like any game that you have. Like I have other games that had save chips in the cartridge. You have to you had to hold the reset button while you repowered it, or you could lose your save. I don't know why that was, but look, you went down the cave. So and now there's someone there. Now one of the things this game does is you can't just click through the these little cutscenes. You have to listen to him speak. Like you have to listen to all of the people there to help you, because Miyamoto insisted on that so that you would never be confused. Like they make you stop and make you listen, because in other games that tried to be like this, you just rush through it and then you'd get stuck and lost and stop playing the game. So he said, no, I'm going to make you listen and learn. So, and you already have. Look, now you can throw your sword.
Wait, did I just get a fire sword? No, I got something.
Yeah, you got it. You got a sword. Romping around the world.
Kind of turns a little bit into Space Invaders.
In some ways, right? Like there's so many elements of so many games, right? Takashi is the one who actually. I'm sorry. Yeah, Takashi Tezuka is that his name? Is the one who actually wrote the script for this game. He was a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, and so he was inspired by fantasy elements, and Miyamoto was inspired by like rural Japan, and they came up with this incredible game. It's funny, if you're into like Zelda canon, this doesn't really fit in it, so they made it into this like alternate universe thing. And what's interesting is to think that they're working on, I mean, this came out later, but they were working on Mario Brothers and this at the same time. And they talked about how hard it was to go from just thinking about a game top down like this to the side scrolling of Mario Brothers. Like it was two completely different mindsets. And it was hard to, and it's a small team, and they're all working. Like nowadays you would have an entire team working on Zelda and an entire team working on Mario Brothers of lots of people, if not hundreds of people. So
the thing that's just wild about this is that this was like 3 years after E.T.
Yes. And E.T., the ultimate like confusing game that didn't have near the number of sophisticated elements that this game has.
Yeah.
And within just a few minutes, you're doing things that are so much more complicated. And yet, in terms of being in a flow state, you want to keep exploring. You want to you earn items, you get rewards. Like Mario Brothers has a feedback system in terms of sound and music. This actually gives you items similar to Mario 2, but just like items you can use. Like you just did. In one of your playthroughs, you went right, and the other one you went up, and this one you're going left. Like games didn't do this when this one came out.
Yeah.
Anyway, have you ever seen a Zelda cartridge? They were famous because they're gold. And,
that's cool.
And they have non-gold ones too. The gold ones are kind of expensive. I didn't own this game. Only one of my friends did. I desperately still want one of the gold cartridges, like the actual OG gold cartridges. Now you can buy something. Do you have enough money to buy anything? I don't think you have one. You have 1 rupee.
That's close to enough.
It's close to 160. Yeah, depending on how you measure.
Dang it!
It's closer to 160 than it is to 1,000.
You know.
So, what are your initial impressions of Zelda?
Just got shot into the thing again. You know, I'm blown away. I have never played this game, and it shows. I've quickly died 3 times, but I'm learning it. Like,
ooh, can you turn the volume down on this one too?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it is down. Wow.
What's interesting is that this one allows me to fail. The ET game, I couldn't figure out if I ever did something wrong.
Well, what was success in the ET game?
Yeah,
like maybe giving the whatever, but there was no feedback for that. Like, what were you getting?
Yeah, but the objectives here are clear. You can clearly tell who the bad guys are.
Yeah,
I still don't know if the man in the big yellow hat was the bad guy or good guy. Was the nurse?
Yeah,
a bad guy, good guy?
Yeah,
were those? Was that the Roman Colosseum? Were they both jails? I don't understand.
Who knows?
But here, forest.
And incidentally, seeing the movie E.T. doesn't help you understand the game any better either.
Very loosely based. But with this, you get a sword, you have a shield. You clearly know who the bad guys are.
Yeah. It has a ton of playability still. It's still fun to play. I will say this is definitely the first go at an RPG-like game. Zelda 2 is already way better. Like Zelda 2 is incredible. This one though is still a lot of fun. It is really fun and it's still worth the play. Zelda, I didn't mention this. Zelda is fun. The name Zelda, who isn't it's the person he's supposed to rescue, right? The blonde-haired bombshell princess he's supposed to rescue. She was named after Scott Fitzgerald's wife named Zelda, who was a famous, amazing, beautiful woman who, like, Miyamoto had a thing for or something. Anyway, they picked her name because of the imagery that would conjure up for Zelda, Scott Fitzgerald's wife. So there's literary connections too. We've got Lord of the Rings, we've got and J.R.R. Tolkien and F. Scott Fitzgerald and such. Beginning of an era, and as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I can spend hours in this incredible open world environment playing Tears of the Kingdom with my kids. None of that is possible without what happens here in 1986 with The Legend of Zelda in 1987, et cetera, et cetera. So great game. And the music still holds up. And to take that music and to orchestrate it and turn it into what it is now it's just so good. It's like the fact that something can hold up so well in both iterations, that Koji Kondo could think of a song that would work so good in that sort of chip tune sound that could then be because the seeds are there already in terms of orchestration, could turn into this incredible epic soundtrack kind of a theme just by reorchestrating it for acoustic instruments. Like that doesn't incredible. It seems so organic because it works for this piece. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work anywhere else. They're geniuses. Right. Miyamoto, Tezuka, Koji Kondo, that team of people that they put together at Nintendo, absolute geniuses who made works of video game art, just art, period. And then they asked Koji Kondo years later, how do you feel about it? And he was like, oh, I don't care about whether or not it was art. I just hope people thought it was fun. You know, and it was fun. And it is fun.
Gesamtkunstwerk.
All right, one more game. To me, this one is the pinnacle of achievement on the Nintendo. And I don't think I'm alone in feeling that way. I do think this game actually is almost overwhelming in terms of what it does feedback-wise, because it uses every inch of that, every nano, every byte of the chip capabilities of the Nintendo, and that cartridge is packed with ways to upgrade. And this, to me, I mean, Mario Brothers, Zelda, all among the greatest games of all time. This one is like really high. This one's the number 3 selling Nintendo game for the NES. It sold over 18 million copies. It's only number 3 because Duck Hunt is so high, and Duck Hunt came with Mario Brothers. And this one didn't come with the system. Or maybe it did later, actually. If I remember, like late versions of the console, this one shipped with it. But of course, it didn't have the time. This game, I can still play this game for hours. Like, in terms of what they learned, taking what they learned from making the other games that they had made, they come up with this Super Mario Brothers 3. The thing that I feel like I have to remind myself when I play this game is I'm playing it on the same system that I played Mario Brothers on. So even though it feels like this massive upgrade, the graphics are better and more specific, it plays smoother, you can scroll right and left, and there's so many more creatures and animals, and they all behave differently. The way you interact with the world is different. Tons of new power-ups. Like, there's way more extra lives. You can play longer. You can save the game. It's not like this was a new game for the Super Nintendo. This is the same system. And yet they had gotten so good at milking. And there's a pit. You love pits. You love diving into pits.
Yes. My favorite.
Just the way you interact, like when you die, for example, on these, because you saw that top down where you go into the world now, and you actually have some choice as to where you're steering the character. Not quite like open world Link Zelda, but still with some choice. Oh, and now where you hit it makes the power up move left or right. Like the other ones only moved right. And even though Mario Brothers 2 was a good game, this game you would not even like it. It's hard to compare it because it's so superior. Like when you die in this one, for example, this one was designed to. Another aspect of this design, I'm going to finish one of these thoughts, is like it was designed to be super playable by beginners and advanced players, which, okay, yeah, just do that. That's so hard, right? To design a game where I'm a Mario Brothers player. I played Mario Brothers 1 and 2, and show me how you're going to keep me interested. And then upgrade that experience for me, and yet make it so intuitive and easy to play. And this one has way more like lives that you can earn, way more systems to it in terms of like power-ups and things like that. And when you die, it doesn't go like Mario Brothers went all the way back to the beginning of the game. This one basically goes to the last fortress that you defeated. So it's got ways to keep you engaged better. The music has like similar themes to what the original Mario Brothers have. You should actually turn this one up a tiny bit when you have a second, because the music and the sound to this one is just genius, and it's all still it's all the same people still, but there's more feedback. There are more sound effects. Bum, bum. And you'll hear the music go in and out a ton because there's so much feedback from the various power-ups and different things you can interact with that half the time the channel that's playing the music has to cut out because it's sharing with the sound effect. But even that, they made sound seamless.
Yeah.
Like, how did they do this? That should be so clunky. What's happening here in front of you should be so darn clunky. And yet it's intuitive and it's smooth and it's wonderful. And I'm yelling into my microphone because I can't contain my joy at this stupid, wonderful, amazing game.
Oh man, I'm so good at this game.
You really are. You've beat 2 levels, and you're supposed to match those things in the bottom. And I'll teach you the trick to do that someday, but not now because this is too fun to watch you play for the first time. So you get to choose. Also, when you play the 2-player game, I don't have to wait until you die. Once you beat a level, the other person playing the Luigi gets to join in. So you just swap.
Oh,
you swap.
Time to join in.
You jumped in a pit. This time full of lava. That card there, yeah, click on that card. You get to do a thing. See, there's all these little mini games.
It's a mini game.
And you get little prizes and stuff for these. And that screen underneath actually like allows you to like you can flip it in game and then grab items from down there, dude.
Look at that.
You're a natural. Go to Vegas or don't go to Vegas. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this game? I'm just so pumped just watching you play that I'm forgetting to give you cool like fun facts. Like now you're not just jumping, you're flying, you're sliding. You can slide down those hills. Like when you push down, you saw that. Like you can slide, you can jump. If you get the raccoon suit, obviously, what would you assume a raccoon suit can do for you?
Shoot dirt balls.
You can fly, duh.
Oh. That was my second guess.
Yeah, obviously. So you get a raccoon suit, you can fly. So you can do that too in this game. Like obvious. That's actually kind of terrifying. Let's see, what else can I tell you about this? This was only 10 people. The same team and it took them only 2 years. Like that's crazy.
That is crazy.
They wanted to make this game isometric. Oh yeah, he comes back. Got to watch out for that dude. Watch out! You better watch out! Ooh. There you go. So, this game they originally intended for it to be. Do you know what isometric is? So isometric was a way to fake 3D. Yes, exactly. Project Zomboid is isometric. So it's like it looks like it's 3D because of the way it's sort of angled and drawn, but it's not actually 3D. So when they made this, they wanted to mess around with isometrics, but they decided it was too hard to line up the jumps. So they decided to go back to side scroller. And so as you can see, that's why you're so good at these jumpings. This whole jumping thing, because imagine if it were isometric, I guess is the thing is.
I am historically notoriously not good at jumping games.
You know, it is a challenge, and this is all easier if you're using the actual control. Oh, you're the raccoon dude.
Yeah.
So when you spin, you can hit things with your tail.
I tried that, and it just killed me.
You have to time it right. So, and when you jump, if you keep pushing the button as you come down, he like floats down, and then you can miss jumping into pits. If you would have floated down, obviously the raccoon tail when it twitches makes you float. Everybody knows that. But even then, look, we've got like different clouds and bushes,
and there's blocks,
and there's the same system.
Oh yeah, and the guy has a helmet and boomerangs now.
Yeah, he sure. And you can get those too later. Kondo said this was the hardest game for him to score because there was just so much to it. And so because Mario Brothers was basically just levels, and this is like different screens, even though they did decide, if you notice at the opening screen, not to have any music or sound, and you can see some of the isometrics in that opening screen. What else can I tell you about that? Oh, did you see the movie? Was it 89? The movie The Wizard? Dude, we need to watch these movies. So The Wizard, so there was actually an issue. The ROM chips they put on these games to help them do some of this cool stuff. Wow. That was not supposed to be that stressful. The ROM chips, there was a delay in supply for making them, so they had to delay the release of Mario Bros. 3 in the United States. So they took advantage of that delay and added Super Mario Bros. 3 to the movie The Wizard, so people got to see the kid play Mario Bros. 3. I won't spoil it for you. It's a fun movie. It's got like not Christian Bale. Is Christian? Yes, Christian Bale's in it. They got to see this kid in this game or in this movie play Super Mario Bros. 3 before the movie or before the game came out in the United States. So it hyped up the game. It's a fun movie, The Wizard. Anyway.
The Wizard.
So what do you think?
Again, what year was this?
1988.
Goodness.
5 years from the first game you played.
That is crazy.
This game is so good. So this game actually technically came out in 1990 in the United States. Okay. About the same time we're talking like Super Nintendo, right? And Super Mario World. This game was good enough to compete with 16-bit games. Like when the Sega Genesis first came out, it couldn't compete with 8-bit Nintendo. It was getting destroyed, especially in Japan. There were 10 Famicoms selling for every one Sega Genesis, even though the Genesis had such better technology. because the games for Nintendo were so darn good. It didn't matter that the technology was better. The games for just like I said in the beginning, the key is always every time that, and even in the console wars, which we'll have a chance to talk about sometime, because Nintendo and Sega are essentially the first of the console wars. It always comes down to games, and eventually there was a character who could unseat Mario as king. Do you know who that is? Could you guess who unseated Mario as king? In my mind, Mario will always be king. But no, it was from a different console. It's not Nintendo. Because Donkey Kong even is still associated with Mario.
Still Nintendo, yeah. It's not. It's not Sega. I mean, it's not Sonic, is it?
It is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Sonic the Sega Genesis when it first came out, it had a game. Did you ever play Altered Beast?
No.
It was the game that shipped with Sega Genesis. It's actually kind of a cool game, but it didn't sell well, and it wasn't competing with Nintendo or Super Nintendo. And then they added Sonic the Hedgehog, and for as cool as Sonic is, I'm sure the fact that he was an iconic character helped. The game was amazing. Like Sonic the Hedgehog as a game is just an incredible game. And then for 4 years in a row, Christmas time, Sega Genesis outsells Nintendo.
Wow.
So it took Sonic the Hedgehog.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
So, what do you think? See, Mario Brothers. A game like this makes me sad because here's a game where I want you to come over to my house, like when we were kids, and have 2 controllers for my regular Nintendo, and stay up late and eat junk food and play Super Mario Brothers 3. Because that memory will be etched in my brain for my whole life of playing this game for hours and hours and hours with friends. And the way the life system works and the 2-player game works on this one, you can basically just keep playing.
That's awesome.
And I have beat this game. Me and my friends frequently beat this game because you don't have to go back and start over. In many ways, I think it's harder to beat the first Mario Brothers, even though it doesn't take as long. It's actually harder because you get kicked back to the beginning every time.
Well, I just got kicked back to the beginning.
I don't think you beat a fortress yet.
Oh, you have to beat a fortress first.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
At each one of those at the end of each of these levels, so you at the fortress you beat this like Bowser wannabe dude, and then at the end of each one of these worlds you fight a Koopaling, and the Koopa, they're like little underlings of Koopa, and you do fight what's his name at the end, Bowser at the end of this one too, but the Koopalings are all named after famous musicians. Like it's kind of funny. Like I don't know how they chose which famous musicians that they would name them after, but like I think one of them is I think I wrote some of them down. I can't remember. One of them looks like Beethoven. He's got like this Beethoven leg, and his name I can't remember what his name is. Anyway, and then one of them is named after like what's his name? Roy Orbison, the pretty lady guy. Like one of them is named after him. So they're like rock musicians and classical musicians and whatever, but they're all like musicians.
Oh, look at that.
See? They're just everywhere. There's helps for you everywhere. You just have to believe in yourself and not ever jump.
Yep.
Like
not
that.
ever jump when the Ninja Turtles are throwing their socks at you.
I mean, I think it's a boomerang, but yep. Ninja.
It looks like a sock to me.
So anyway, so there's your games. So we should probably stop sharing your screen so that beautiful, wonderful, amazing music, which I can listen to forever. There was another fun fact I was going to give to you. There are like chomp enemies in that one, like in Mario Kart, those big like chomp enemies that like those big black balls that come out and try to chomp you, and then I didn't realize this until researching for this, that those were based on an experience Miyamoto had when he was walking and a dog, like a big massive dog, like leapt at him and then was yanked back by the owner's chain, and so he made one of the biggest, scariest enemies. What are they called? Chomps. I think they're called chomps. Yeah. Anyway, so there you go. Those 3 games.
Oh, yeah. Like they look like a ball and chain.
Yep.
To come after you.
Yep. So I just still love those games and will always love them. They're masterpieces, in my opinion. They turned around the video game industry. They sent Nintendo on a path that's still on today. They're just great games. What do you think of those 3 games?
E.T.
Great game.
deserves to have brought down the entire video game industry. Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 3 and Legend of Zelda, all three of them, awesome games. So impressive to think of where they came from. I mean, to go from Pong.
Yes,
and
when
then
we started.
A few years later, you've got E.T., which is like 4 steps backwards.
We're talking a decade here.
And then to have Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario 3, that jump is huge. That leap forward in technology. Actually, it's not technology, is it? Because these are all on the Nintendo. It's a leap forward in just brilliance in Gesamtkunstwerk.
Oh,
it shows you that it's not just about like the coolness of video games is not just like you pull a lever and it's just like ching.
Yes,
we've addicted the kids, and so now we're good. It takes, you have to be a genius to make a genius level game. You can't, these don't just happen.
Oh, I love everything you just said. There's so many. I just, like having an orchestra in front of you does not make a great composer, right?
Right.
Like, so somebody like Beethoven with that orchestra versus me with that orchestra. Like Beethoven created the Ninth Symphony. I cannot create something of that level with an orchestra, right? Like that's the difference, even though we have the same tools. And a lot of people made a lot of great games for the Nintendo. But in the hands of those 10 people, and of course it's their technology, absolutely. But what those people did compared to, and the Atari games that we saw, those are fun. Those are great. But like in terms of what Nintendo figured out about divvying up jobs and just the way they used music and visual arts and sound effects and storytelling, all of these artistic elements that on their own are already, and they're Japanese. Like and so in order to make that translate to the world, literally translate, and there are hilarious stories of Nintendo games that were like really poorly translated. Just look up the phrase "all your base are belong to us." And we'll have to talk about that later. Anyway, all your base are belong to, and there's a song even written about it. But they were able to keep that. And this, I bristle at the idea that there are those who like actually criticize the lack of some of like the sort of literature and writing elements. They do that same storytelling without all of that, keeping it very, very simple and yet engaging you in something in a way that you can still live in for hours and hours and hours and have this awe-inspiring flow-like experience.
Yeah, supreme artistry.
I could not agree more. And there's more to come, but I just want to reiterate, none of what we have today is possible without Miyamoto and Nintendo and Mario Brothers and Zelda. Again, lots of other. So what we're doing whenever you do a survey like this, and I teach like music appreciation, right? And one of the hardest things to do is to say, we're going to go into this era of music that I love, but we're only going to talk about these two composers. And it feels like sorting between your children. Like there are 8 others sitting over here that we don't have time to talk about. If not 20 others, they're sitting over there. I never talked to them. But there's all these other like,
hi, other children.
Hey guys. So anyway, the same thing here. Like I want to talk about I have a Nintendo game sitting behind me that I want to talk about, but I'm trying to highlight this progression. And we're only talking about Nintendo games for the Nintendo. But so I want to throw that out to listeners and such. Like, what Nintendo games were your favorites? I have a lot of sports games, for example, on mine. I have a lot of Konami games on mine, like Life Force and Contra. And I have a lot, and Castlevania is on that list. I have like on sports like Double Dribble and Baseball Stars and Blades of Steel and Tecmo Bowl. I've got games like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Ghostbusters, which were great games. But like,
love Ninja Turtles.
Which ones? Like, what were your favorites? What to you was art? I think again, a lot of those Konami games were art, absolutely art as well. I just think these games, these Mario Brothers and Zelda games, were what led to the creation of that great art. Anyway, I could talk about this forever. I just think Nintendo. I had an Atari when I was a kid and loved it. I loved playing games with my grandma on her console. Nintendo and the Nintendo Entertainment System is what was like. I walked all the way across our housing complex, and we lived in this military housing on base. and it was a long walk, but every Saturday morning I walked all the way to my friend's house, and the only game he had was Mario Brothers. This was in 1986. And would just sit there and play with him for hours and hours and hours on Saturday morning. I'd watch He-Man and Transformers or whatever, and then walk over. Priorities, right? You got to start your day with your Fruit Loops and your He-Man, and then walk all the way over and play. And I feel like I could still do that. I could still do that today. So anyway, thank you for playing those games. Yeah, we should do it. Thank you for playing those. And I
thanks for the recommendations.
Yeah, they're great. And there's many more where those came from. Anyway, so guys, again, play some games. Let us know which of these games you played and you loved. And make sure when you play these games, you recognize what's going on. Like, really play the game. Like, pay attention to the game. Pay attention to all these elements that we've talked about, whether it's the art or the sound. Maybe play through a game and consider each one of those things individually when you play. Like, play through once and watch it. Play through again and listen. And then just take in all those wonderful. I feel like we play these games, we consume them, and we throw them out, and we forget we miss what incredible things are happening. So be present and play some games.
And stay tuned next week, because we are going to be talking about exactly what you just brought up: walking across the base, sitting down, playing for hours. Super Mario 3.
Yeah, right. It was one.
Super Mario 1.
Yeah.
That act of playing with somebody else, what does that mean, and what kind of power does that have? And obviously it creates amazing memories, and it creates lasting, lifelong friendships. But just stay tuned. Stay tuned.
Next week we'll do that. All right. Well, everybody, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Join us on TikTok. Join us on Discord.
Yes.
We've got a lot more happening in all of those places, and we continue to increase our offerings in all those areas. We want you to be part of this community. We want to play games with you. So join us. Bye, everybody.